hello and welcome to today's webinar. And as it was mentioned, today we like to talk about the lens of our new GY-HM800 series, because the new ENG lens is something very dedicated, because it's the first time you have an ENG lens with autofocus capability and optical image stabilizer. And there are some special rules to do the adjustment of this lens and how you handle the lens. Well, I like start from the basic and say, well, I have a regular lens, ENG lens, I know how to handle. But frankly speaking, when I'm on the road and I see even professionals, and when I see how they're doing the back focus adjustment, I see so many mistakes running. So therefore, let's have a look from starting from the basic, compare with our original standard lens, and let's have a look also to our new lens. For this reason, let me switch to my other camera here. Let me move to the corner, and then let's have a view to the optics which I have here in front of me. Well, this is a standard lens. This is a Fujifilm lens, could be a Canon lens or any other lens that don't care. And this body here is our new ENG lens. First of all, to mention to everybody, this is the GY-HM800. You can buy the H100 chassis itself, so it's not needed when you want to have a studio lens or a lens which you have normal operation condition, mechanical or focus or mechanical zoom. Of course, you can use that lenses, and we also offer this kind of lenses. But this part here for ENG use is really interesting lens to do that. Well, let's have a look a little bit to the mechanical point. First of all, the traditional lens which we have. Of course, as everybody know of you, we have here the normal focus part. Then, of course, with the information here on the ring. The next ring is our iris ring. Then our zoom ring. And then comes our iris ring here. And then comes the important part here for the back focus adjustment. This is this small screw here, so we can lose that, and we can do the back focusing adjustment. And of course, some of the lenses have also macro operation. Let's look to the new ENG lens in comparison with that. Well, here's our focus ring, but the first thing you see, there is no mark on that. Well, this is a very complex optic with the optical image stabilizer and the autofocus, and this data which position the lens at, you will get electronically on the viewfinder or on the LCD side panel, which we see later on. The next ring is the same as this lens. We have our focus position. The next ring is the iris position. Also the iris position here, which we have, is also here, and this is unlimited. You can turn around because it's fully servo drive, and also there is no mark. And that has special reason, because the F measurement of here is real measured, and you will see that also on the LCD or on the viewfinder. Coming to the back end, which our back focus adjustment and the macro, you don't see it on this one, there is nothing here, so this is plain. Because this is an intelligent lens and has a microprocessing in, so it has also its own firmware. To do this adjustment, that will be done fully electronically with that lens body, and I will show you how to do this. First, let's have a look to the operation control, as we have here in front. This is typical, you know, the push button for the iris, manual, automatic mode, the rocker level for teal and white, and video return. So nothing special, and of course the record button. The same here on our lens, the iris push button, automatic, manual, the rocker level for the focus, for the zoom, and also the return button and the record button. For the connection, as you can see, both are equal connections. What's also unique on that lens, you know that when you're using lens, and as long as no prime lens, you will get color aberration effects. Color aberration effects are typical line and very small horizontal or vertical line. You get green or red color shift, and when you do the zoom, it will swap to the upper position of the green, red, or red and green. To compensate that, the lens have to give color aberration compensation information, which already this lens will do. So an example, if you buy This lens itself you cannot buy separately because you can only select the camera body or the body with our ENG lens. But keep in mind, if this won't be a regular lens to buy, this minimum is 3.5 to 4,000 euro cost. So you have a big benefit when you have the whole chassis with that lens. Even later on, maybe use another lens or to exchange the lens. Again, you get a big benefit on this lens here. Let's look to the other side, on the other side around here in the lens. Typical, this is our connection area for the zoom control in case of studio mode. This is the manual and the servo drive switch. And the same thing we have here on our lens. There it is. There is our zoom control for studio operation mode or handle. And there is also the switch here for manual and servo. Now there is something special, and you can see that here, and I will zoom that a little bit up for you. Let me do this. Okay, there we are. You have a dedicated bottom here, and there is a small LED here. This bottom and this LED comes quickly important for our back focus adjustment. Well, when we're talking about the back focus adjustment, let's take first of all the regular lens and move the lens to our camcorder body. So let me switch on the camera body like this. So there is some important hint for the back focusing adjustment. I like to explain that again. Even a lot of people already know, oh, I know this, I know how to do that. But still I see sometimes large mistakes. So what you need to do the back focus adjustment. The most important issue for the back focusing adjustment is that the iris must be fully open, and this is the most mistake what will be done, especially when you're working in the field. The people take some high resolution graphics, or better you have a Siemens test pattern, and then they try to do the back focus adjustment, and they do it, but they not recognize that the iris is closed. Or it's not fully open. So but this is the mandatory issue to do the back focusing adjustment, that the iris must be full open. So for this condition we need a little bit less light than I have here. So let me cover the light. So I think the image is still good enough for you, because I'm using our GY-HM800 here. I think makes light enough. So and let me switch to the external source signal. Rather here, let me see. Okay, signal is on. It's open. External, there we are. So, and let me switch to the second camera here, that you can see what I do. So what we need to do this back focus adjustment, we need a Siemens star. This is optimized. And let me quickly go, I set everything to manual, and here is our Siemens star. So here we are. You can see the back focus is totally off. What's important is that this test pattern, what you see, which is completely unsharp, should be minimum 3 meters away, otherwise you cannot use the full zoom range. So any object will work. If you don't have a Siemens star on the field, you can use a newspaper with a lot of details in, and that can help you to do the back focus adjustment very quick. But of course, better is to use such a Siemens star. And also it's important when you do the back focus adjustment, you do that not one time. You have to do that minimum 2 or 3 times again to repeat, because this is a kind of a balance adjustment between the lens. So let's do an operation. So everything is manual, iris is manual. So the first thing what I have to do, make sure that my iris is fully open and not getting close. So it's manual mode. Then first thing, let's zoom up the image to the Siemens star and do the focusing as best you can get, like this. Then of course you go back. So, and you can see now we are completely unsharp. Take now the mechanical ring on the side and do the back focusing adjustment as sharp as image you can get right here. So the most people stop at this position, but what happens, this adjustment is still not correct. So you will see that when I zoom it up now, you see the focus is not in position. That means I have to repeat the position. So again, focusing, maximum point, back focus again, loose the screw, and do the adjustment again to get the optimized image as we have here. Let's see, what's that? Okay, and then make a cross check, go front, focusing is still sharp, go back, image is still sharp. This is the right way to do this adjustment. I like to quickly repeat that procedure. I think this is important. Okay, let me adjust the back focus again. It's very quick. Go for front, do the focus, optimize position, go back. As you can see here, we are out of position. Take the mechanical adjustment, bring it into the position. Here we are. Okay, back focus is done, but you can see if that do one time, so I zoom it up again and I'm completely unsharp. So again, front ring, optimize adjustment, zoom back, and make the optimate. Okay, best you can. Okay, that's done, and make a cross check, and your back focus is done. If you are in the field, try to search a darker area to do that, and make sure that the iris is open. If the iris is closed, assume my iris level is down, the image balance is not correct. So to do the iris adjustment, the focal head completely open. Well, this is the typical mechanical lens as you have seen that. Let's use our GVC lens, the new ENG lens for the 800, and let's remove the standard lens. So, and for this lens we need also the electrical control, otherwise you cannot do that. So make sure that you set up the lens here in position. And also we need to connect that. So the lens is now completely finished, set up. Let's have a quick view to the external signal. Yeah, here we are. And you can see that it's important here on the small screen on the top. On the top of there, you can see here in the port, you see there is RA and there is autofocus in. Manual focus, so make manual iris. So that is everything off. You can see manual iris is off. And set here autofocus also off. So we start to do the back focusing adjustment. And it's quite easy to do. As you remember, when we're looking to the side, there is no ring here in front. So what you have to do, go to the top lens, and let me zoom that a little bit up for you, that you can see that in a better position. So you have this iris bottom here, this one. And keep in mind, a minute ago, I show you the bottom. Here we have the bottom, there is another switch. So what you do, take one finger, take one of your fingers, hold down the small bottom, hold it together with the iris, both together for a few seconds. And what you see on the screen on the side, the iris gets full open now, and you can see the LED is lightening. So now we are in the back focus adjustment mode. So how you do the back focusing adjustment? And keep in mind the iris have to be open. This has now happened because this goes electronically here on the image which you see. And we're using now the standard iris ring, as you can see on the top. The standard iris ring works as a focus adjustment, the back focusing adjustment. So what you have to do, zoom the image up, and do that manually. Zoom it up, set the focus in the front, zoom back, and use the iris ring at the back flame adjustment. So let's do that with the real image. Okay, and let me swap the image. Sorry, like this way. So and now you have the same procedure. Iris is full open. You can see your iris level is full open. So zoom it up, do the focusing, zoom back, take the iris ring to do the focus adjustment as maximum you can, zoom it up, do focus again, go back, do the adjustment. So here we are, and when you are finished, simply press the small button a short moment, and you can see the iris goes back and your adjustment is done. Maybe there is something also a little bit new for some persons who work with a mechanical lens, is the adjustment of the focus position, as you can see on the screen right here. You can see the focus adjustment and you exactly see which meta position you have. This is something new when you use a lens which using fully automatically focus and have a turnaround. But this is, believe me, it's just a learning procedure how to handle that. Instead to look to the front ring of the lens, you do it here electronically. The next is the iris. As I mentioned to you, the iris, there's a complex lens and has more glass than a regular lens in. So if you do the focal adjustment and say, well, I need to have, let's say here, f number 5.6 and you want to hold it. This is no problem at all if you move that. You can see the iris level, and we're looking here to the iris level at this position there. It's constant, so I can move it here and nothing happens. But maybe for some of you is new, when I open the iris completely and I zoom up, the iris level will change. You see that? Have a look to the iris. I open the iris full and you see here, and I do the zoom, the iris level will change. Because that is a real measurement of the F number. You have to understand there's such kind of optics, more glasses in. There's the optical image stabilizer in, and there's the autofocus unit in that one, and that have to really compensate. So of course, if the iris gets fully open, you have a different F number instead of you have a full zoom up. So this is also something new for some person and think, oh, maybe there's something wrong. No, it's okay, because this is depending on the glass area which you have here. We have more glass in. You can see I repeat it. So now we have F3, this is the maximum and the low condition, and then we go back and it goes up to 1.6. Even in manual mode, because it's a real measurement. It's different, it's not just mechanical. Well, that is our back focusing adjustment which we have done. Let's do a little bit back the lights here. And let's talk a little bit of the other features when I turn the camera around. Let me go to the full auto mode. And in case of the full auto mode, everything the camera controls by itself. And I like to control with you here on our settings. What you see here, it is also auto exposure in. Of course, the sensitivity, I have not so much light in here, so I make it darker for the back focusing adjustment, and I have the backlight here from the sun from outside. So, and we have our F number right here, and it's already minus 6 dB it's running, so it's a lot of light here already inside. Well, let's move the automatic off, and you see we have our standard unit, and let's say we make only automatic focus, and you see that gets gray here, and that means when the F number gets gray, then you have to use an ND filter to open the iris more to get a better image quality. This is a typical issue when the iris gets close. You're coming in a physical situation where we call lens deflection. So the light, the iris hole, it's too small. And this is one of the most mistakes when the camera is very light sensitive and the light comes in, you're doing out the shot and the F number goes over 11 like what you see right here, then it gets gray and it means you have to switch on the ND filter. If you don't do the ND filter, your image gets washed out and looks unsharp. And that's the most mistake and learning procedure what the most people do. Some other manufacturing cut the iris and they make it dark, but we think this is a bad issue when you're making dark the iris. Sometimes you want to make a shoot from a dark area to a very bright area. So, and we say, no, don't cut the image and get the image already. Even maybe it looks a little bit washed out, but you can do the shot. In this case, when it's got gray, this is just a reminder and say, please put the filter in front on, the ND filter. But there is a lot of customers that they say, oh, there's always a discussion point if you use ND filter or you're using electronic shutter instead. There were a lot of people using instead of the ND filter the electronic shutter, but for the smearing and all this other stuff. Whatever, it's up to you, it's up to the shot. Well, maybe some of you can maybe say, well, could we not have a bigger information, or make sure you put your shutter on? Frankly speaking, we are thinking about to do that, but we want to switch it on and off. The reason for that one, if you have a big message in the screen and you have the experience with the camera, this big message get a disturbance, and then you don't like this big message, or put ND filter in or something else. So I think, again, it's a learning procedure, and one time you know that and you recognize it, I think that should be no problem. But we want to fulfill our people requests, and maybe someday we will do a software update and you get a bigger message for that one. This is already recognized. There's another important issue when you're working with manual mode for the iris. You see the auto exposure is off. But when your auto exposure will be switched on, like this, you still have a light control. That means even you use the manual lens, your image will be changed in the brightness, because you're using the auto exposure. That works together. You set manual iris for the general picture, but still the brightness, in case of gain, will be controlled by the auto exposure. So that could be a trap. So when you use the camera, make sure, if you really want to use manual mode completely, then maybe you have to switch off the auto exposure. What again, we have also the optical image stabilizer, which you go into the menu and set up this one. But I think this is for everybody understandable. But I like to show you another special new thing in that camera with the autofocus. One of them is the auto face tracking. As you see, I have a small studio here, so this experience is a little bit difficult to simulate, but let me try this. In case we want to use the autofocus system with a face tracking system, it could be a very, very interesting feature with that new lens. Because if you have a conference shooting, and you want to concentrate on one person, make sure that that is in focus, and the person is moving, or any moving object, the camera, as long the image is inside the image frame, automatically the camera will track the focus to that person. It's like a little bit person identification. To do that, let me do, and it's very important, you have to do an automatic mode, and with automatic iris, or you have automatic exposure to set up this kind of application. So I do full auto on. Let me do, I have not a real girl here, so that makes the simulation a little bit more difficult. Anyhow, let's try if we can simulate that. I can switch on, and I have one of the user buttons, and I like to use then we have to use autofocus. Okay, otherwise we cannot use that feature. We have to use that auto in, and you can see there coming two faces on the screen. And to show this, okay, I have to show you the. Let me do it with the camera. I can pick up that image and let me move away to that. Let me adjust the camera here that you can see my LCD screen. Hold on a second. Let me adjust that. So here we are. Okay. Okay. So now you can see the the viewfinder, and you can see the real image. Here you have the real image, and of course here is the viewfinder. Let me switch on the mode, because I have that put that here on the front bottom. So, okay, and let me switch on this function. So immediately you can see my face tracking is on. There we are. Now let me switch the screen opposite. I think there's a little bit more better to see that. Let me do this way. So you have a bigger screen now. Okay, a little bit focused. So the face control is on. You can see that marks here, it's blinking, and we get a cursor because the camera recognized a face with this girly here, and this is what you see there is the real image, what's coming out of the camera. Now let me move the camera a little bit, and you can see that this face detection is going ahead with the face of that girl. And the focus will be also controlled by this person. Well, my limited here is I'm limited in this room to show you that. If we have more people around, you see orange cursor key. The orange cursor key is the active key which is working. And normally you get some blue around if there are more persons. And that makes your life very easy, because if you take the front level controller and you easily push that, and you can select this should be this person or another person should be in focus. So this face tracking could be very interesting in case of conferences, or you have a church, or you have a lot of a group of people, or even some object which is moving, as long they're not too fast moving. Of course, any automatic has also some limitation. Let me show why you see here the screen. There is a lot of people which may be using the focus assist while on the screen. But there is another feature which I basically like more than actually focus assist, because as long you're doing HD recording, you know we have this camera function here, and when we go down, we have the user switch settings. And all the buttons which you have on the side of the camera, you can select dedicated function. For example, I already put that here on the user button 2. I put the expanded focus feature. Expanded focus feature is, and you can see that on the viewfinder or on the LCD. So this is my normal image which I have here. This is my image on the screen. When I push the user button 2, I have a zoom up here. Okay, let me try to get the girl a little bit more in the light shape. Of course. So, and I think there is, okay, go a little bit higher with the screen like this. So I hope you can see that. So I push number 1 again. So this is a regular image. And normally you use focus assist and try to get the blue lines or whatever on the LCD here. Sometimes very difficult to see. So if you use the expanded focus feature on the level 2, you switch it up and you have a one point time zoom up, and it makes it easy to do the focusing adjustment. Well, as you can see, this is a toggleable field, so I do on and off. And maybe you don't like this on and off. Maybe you want to push the bottom and it should be stay for some seconds and then folds back in the normal position. Well, this is no problem. Go to your menu, items, go to the camera function, and it's in the user switch, and scroll down. Because if you scroll down, there is the presetting. For example, how the face detect should be work, and also here the expanded focus. You can set toggle momentary. Momentary means as long you press the button, as long the zoom up is there, or you say limited time. Let's switch to the limited time. Go back out of the menu, and I press the button number 2. It stays for 3 seconds, and then it folds back in a normal position. It's very handy, very useful if you work in manual operation. By the way, you have seen the face detection operation. The face detection operation has another very good benefit, and this is also you find here when we go to face detect, and let's go to this presetting of this face detection. You can select here how it should work. just focusing or just focusing with auto exposure. And this auto exposure allows you that when the person runs in a little bit darker area, the video level would be increased. Even you're running automatic iris, but the video level there will be increased so that the person is in a good light position. So well, try to use it, try to do experience with that, and I think it's really a very, very useful tool. So I think that's the main part of the iris which I explained to you, and keep in mind there's a lot of benefits with that to using, especially for a video journalist which put the ENG camera on the shoulder and you set up to extended mode operation. Go out and you have the optical image stabilizer on a real good ENG lens. You have the autofocus capability, and by the way, the autofocus capability, we have something new, and that is my last thing that I like to show you. It's very interesting for that one, because automatic features always have a difficulty. It's never judged like a person, of course. And I like to do that here again with my girl. I think what I mentioned to you is a little bit difficult to show all these items running. Okay, coming back here to the screen. Take the external picture here on this one. So, what for the adjustment of the iris? Let's go in the menu option. Let's go to the camera function. You can see that on top. And when you scroll down, you have the autofocus setup. First of all, it's very unique. As say, well, we have an autofocus speed selection, where you can set up its middle, fast or slow. Again, middle, fast and slow is necessary. Somebody say, well, autofocus should work as fast as possible, but this is not true, because it's depending on your application. So if, of course, if you mix sports, you definitely will set autofocus to fast. But if you do shooting in a church or something else, and you have some empty room between people, and the autofocus is very fast, so you always, the image will be, let's say, jump from one position to the other position, which you also maybe don't like. So therefore you can select up your autofocus speed selection. But here is something else which we do in case of the automatic mode. We say focus assist. Well, focus assist, you know, and when you switch on the focus assist, let's do middle, go here, and you set, well, off, then the autofocus assist completely off. When it's say far and near, you have typical autofocus assist with the green, red or blue lines, but area is completely new. Well, let's set to area. When we set to area, and let's go out of the menu right now. So keep in mind, we have set up the autofocus assist to area. Well, focus assist, when you use that, makes normally sense only when you're working in manual mode. Yes, that's correct. But here we're using an area detection for the autofocus itself, because this is a fun thing. First of all, let's have a look quickly. I zoom that up here. What I do now with the next demonstration is I use only the front focus. Well, if I'm in the normal autofocus mode, I can turn the iris here as much. You can see that here on my hand. I can turn and the focus will not change because it's in autofocus mode, of course. But why the hell I use this? Well, we make a special new feature into the camcorder, and it should be operational for the customers, because you don't like to go in the menu, switch the menu when you're working in auto mode. So the front ring is normally not used. Let me do this. So you can see my hand here, I'm in the front. So when I give a kick turn, you get a marker into your viewfinder. It's only for a few seconds. And you can see already the orange is the active mode. So now autofocus works into the center, autofocus works to the right hand, autofocus works back to the center or to the left hand. And the simple selection, you just trick the front iris ring, the front focus ring, and you just move that cursor. Very simple, very handy, and very useful. Because why this is useful? You know, if you do a portrait shot like a wedding, and you're being outside and you're running in the autofocus mode, you have a lot of details in the background, and maybe your autofocus will not take that nice girls in a nice wedding dress, but it will take the trees instead, because the trees have a lot of detail and focuses to that position. And when you do a portrait shot and you're working in HD, normally you use the golden rule of shots, so it normally is a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left out of the center screen. Therefore you simply can select where the autofocus should be working. But when you do that in a still image like here, please don't do that as a demonstration to your customer when you're not moving the image. Well, when the autofocus is working, it starts a change in the picture. So you have to do, it has to be some movement in case of when I move the zoom ring or a person is moved, then it will be judged. Once it matched, and then you change it here, it will not change to the other position because the image information is not going to change. So it needs to be a zoom or it needs to be an image change. So the signal information must be changed. Again, this is a very useful tool. It's built in the autofocus. Autofocus speed, set to autofocus, use the front iris ring and select where your focus position should work. Well, that was the last information to that. And the good thing is, all the users which already have a 600 or 650 will get a software update, the version 3.0. And also in this new version for the 600 and the 650, you will have exactly the same autofocus operation. You can select your autofocus speed, and you have this area selection where the autofocus should be react. So it's a big benefit for the firmware upgrade. And the firmware release will be, I'm already quick done, so it will be next week. End of next week it will be on our website, the version 3.0 for everybody who has a 600 or a 650. That's all for today. I hope it was interesting. As usual, I stay here. If there are questions, there is a phone number. You can ring me up here or use the chat box if I have a question. I keep a few moments online if you have questions, so we can talk about it. As long when there are no questions, God bless you, and see you on the next schedule. And I have seen on the website there is